Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. We call ourselves wild today because we are running around. It's a fun Monday, guys.
Yeah.
Chuckster, how are you today?
Doing
okay?
great, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I was just telling you guys before we got on here that my wife and I had a full day off yesterday for the first time in what feels like basically since Trump got shot.
Who's your wife?
Oh, you know, the best reporter in this side of the Mississippi, Jordan Elder. But we watched the Bronco game yesterday. We had to decide what beer we needed to get to the store. That was a tough decision, as it usually is. We went with one of the local brews. They had like a variety pack because she likes a certain beer and I like a certain beer. So that was good. I usually just get Coors Light just because that's what I
really
tend to
expand
drink.
your horizons. Do it while you're young. It took me forever to learn to expand my beer horizons.
I'm a Coors Light guy, man.
I think it's part of being a Broncos fan.
It is. It's part of. Speaking of which, Bo Nix looked really good.
Oh,
dude. I was going to say, speaking of which, I don't make much about the preseason, but it's the nasty that they played with last night. In fact, if I was, the Packers head coach, man, I'd make my team walk home after that. I mean, it's one thing to get your butts kicked in a football game, which they did, but to not compete, I mean, come on.
Well, they also, this is really getting us off on a tangent early, but they had the joint practice on Friday, the Packers and the Broncos did, and all reports coming out were that the Broncos kicked their ass up and down the field all day on Friday. So Matt LaFleur came in yesterday hoping that they'd play with a little bit more nasty, a little bit more grit. And then after the game, he's like, I thought that we were going to come out and do a better job than we did on Friday, but apparently we just suck. And I was like, God damn.
Yeah, it's like you might have to make a few roster moves just to get everybody's attention because, again, I mean, you would think with jobs on the line, like you would see guys selling out, and with very few exceptions, did we see any of that from the green and gold last night?
Yeah, we're gonna though. I mean, most of these guys are not going to make the team.
They're not, but it's like act like you want to make the team is where I'm at.
We're going to talk a lot of preseason today. Cowboys beat the Raiders 27-12 and looked pretty good doing it. A lot of guys that are battling for jobs or battling for playing time looked pretty good on Saturday evening, especially maybe mid-second quarter and on. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Plus, ESPN experts predicting a huge leap from both Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs this coming season, picking the Spurs as the second most likely team to make a big leap. So we'll talk about that as well. And stemming off of that premise, my trivia question for today, not too hard, Chuck. I think that you'll be able to get this one. What year did the Spurs see their biggest single season turnaround? So basically adding the most wins from season to season. So you got something in mind just like off the top of your head?
Yes, but I always get those 90s years confused, although I might be wrong on this in terms of where my mind is going, but I'm thinking late 90s. So,
okay.
Are you thinking like the year that Tim came?
Yeah.
Tim,
right, off the top of my head.
Or David.
Well, Dave was healthy. Well, yeah, that's true. That's right.
Year of David, huh?
Oh, that's right. Wow. Okay. Yes, you've given me more to ponder.
I'm just, got plenty of time to ponder.
We'll call you Christian Ponder.
Or Sam Ponder.
Yeah, or Sam Ponder.
So, yes. Recently,
Yes.
unemployed Sam Ponder.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she'll
be back.
She'll be back. She's very nice and good at her job.
Yep.
Anyway, let's get to the Cowboys preseason stuff. So, Cowboys beat the Raiders 27-12. Many standout performances from the offense. Let's start out with Trey Lance, though. That's where the conversation kind of begins and ends with the Cowboys in the preseason, at least. He played, I think, Rush played the first two series. Trey Lance comes in. He started out pretty slow. Didn't have a great first two series. Had a ball on the 3rd and 9 that went behind the receiver. Should have probably been caught. Wasn't a great ball, though. Threw one low, one high, one completely off. And then he really kind of kicked it into gear. They had a 14-play touchdown drive. He threw into Flournoy, I believe. And then the most impressive drive, I thought, was right before half when he went 34 yards in 24 seconds, set up the Brandon Aubrey field goal, 66-yarder. We'll get into that in a second. This is what Coach Mack had to say right after the game.
Starting with Trey, I felt that some of the things I was trying to do because I was trying to get certain individual touches, so it really didn't get them into a rhythm right away. The 3rd down conversion opportunities we didn't, we missed a couple there, but 14-play drives. I mean that's incredible for preseason football, and I think it just shows you his understanding and confidence. And he just needs to continue to play. He just needs reps. He needs to play in live games, particularly in the drop back phase, because he's done a very good job managing everything else. So I thought he clearly took a step today.
Besides the lawnmower going on in the background of that press conference, or Clarence shaving his face or something, whoever was doing whatever in the back of that press conference, what do you think of what Coach had to say, and what do you think of Trey?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, why would you go against what McCarthy had to say about him, right? But I think this was a carryover from, some of the positives or the takeaways that we got from Trey Lance in that first preseason game, in that there were sustained drives. There were a couple of 7-play drives where, you're doing a good job of moving the football. And although, there's not a lot of huge plays at the end of this, I think from the Cowboys fans' perspective, we are seeing growth, right? And there are some positives that you can take away every step of the way, i.e. the biggest one to me is he's not turning the ball over, right? So, if you're looking at progression, and I mean, that's one thing I think we all said going in, right? I mean, I saw with my own 2 eyes what he wasn't doing during OTAs and mini camps. Well, he's clearly doing more now, and it helps that the offensive line's, doing a really good job too. You can throw all those variables in there, but he is making progress. And at the end of this, he's not turning the football over. How can that be a bad thing?
Yeah, for me, I just question, we're still talking about his footwork, and he's in his 4th year in the league. We're still talking about how he can get the ball out on time and on schedule, and his footwork and how and his fundamentals of the game. And he's a 4th-year player who's drafted 3rd overall just a couple of years ago. And it's like, where did everyone go wrong with this kid to where you've messed him up so much that he has to basically go back to the beginning and go back to, this is what a quarterback does?
I think that's a problem around the league, actually, with younger quarterbacks. I mean, because they're going to change some things to fit physically how you play in the pro game, right? So footwork being right up at the top. That's not the first time you've heard coaches or anybody talking about, what you're trying to do to make or give the person who's playing quarterback the best opportunity to go out and win football games. So it starts with some of the basics, even at that level. But again, we go back to, he didn't play a lot of games in college football, and a lot of stuff that he did, he's obviously a great athlete, and he can out-athlete himself, especially at the college level, in, many circumstances. So now where everybody's good, everybody's an athlete, it's going to take more than just being an athlete to play the position. But again, he's showing way more than he did. I mean, I tell you, going back to watching 7-on-7 during OTAs and minicamp, and how long he would take, and and then, still maybe not even go the right place with the football. That he's starting to, with game reps, he's starting to figure some of that out. And again, it's, where are you at, right? It's not the Denver Broncos A-team defense that he's playing against, right? He's playing against other guys that are trying to hook on an NFL rosters, but we are seeing progress at the end of this.
I was a little encouraged because the Raiders did play a lot of their starters on Saturday evening, which was, don't play preseason games at 9:00 at night. Just FYI for the future. Like, why are they
West
playing?
Coast, dude.
Why are they playing it? They played in Vegas. They didn't play in San Francisco or Oakland.
It's still Pacific time, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
but at this, just for the future, can we not play Cowboys preseason games at 9:00? It screws everybody. But my point,
kept everybody out of the casinos. That's a good thing, right?
They're 24 hours.
Okay.
Plus, they have the Wynn Entertainment Club down there at
Good
the end.
point.
I think they might have some blackjack tables inside. Anyway,
Of course they do.
That's how I want to watch it. That's how I want to watch a football game. Play some blackjack.
Right.
Hit me, hit him, hit me, hit him.
Yeah.
But the Raiders played a lot of their starters. Not obviously, their offense has a whole nother set of issues now that they've named Gardner Minshew their starting quarterback. But I think that Trey showed a lot. But I'm also struggling to figure out what the end game is with him. Are we just trying to build up trade value again and re-sign him next year? Are we trying to trade, we being the Cowboys, are they trying to trade him? Like, are you going to cut him? Are you going to keep 3 quarterbacks? Like, what are you trying to get out of this?
I think at this point, you have to say that they're trying to see exactly what they have, and they're giving the player every opportunity to prove that he can play at the NFL level. I think we know what Cooper Rush's body of work is. Certainly we know what Dax is, right? So, what if you get into a scenario where your third guy has got to come in and play some ball games at some point? So, it's hard to know. You're right. That could be in the back of Jerry's minds or management's minds that, we have to showcase this guy so that we can unload him. But I just feel like they wouldn't be investing this kind of time during these preseason games, which, if nothing else, are used for evaluation. I just don't know that they would be giving him this much time if that was the end goal.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that there's a chance that he could be QB2 instead of Cooper Rush? Or do you think Cooper has done enough to where he's solidified as the QB2?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, right as we sit here today, could he be? Yes. Will he be? I doubt it. Okay. I mean, Cooper Rush is 5-1 as a starter. I mean, Cooper Rush has earned the right to be the backup for this team right here, right now.
Fair enough. Also, standing out yesterday was Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe played extremely well. Tyler Guyton obviously has come in for Chuma Edoga. The depth is another question, but the top end talent on this offensive line, I think they're showing exactly why they were drafted where they were this year. Cooper Beebe had at one play, he started at center yesterday over Brock Hoffman, and he had one play where he blocked his initial one tech and then passed him off, went to the three tech, blocked him as well. And it was just like, you got double bingo or bonus bingo here from your center who has never played center before in his life. He looks fantastic.
Yeah, I thought Pro Football Focus, after the rankings came in, or the grades that those players earned for their performance the other night, and I think BB graded out. He and Keemon Hall graded out the highest of anybody on the team. So
pick six will do that for you.
You would think, right? Yes.
Cooper played extremely well, and I'm really encouraged by his performance just because he's never played center before. He's starting at center on Saturday at least. I don't know if he's going to start the season, but I think you have confidence that he can play any of those inside three positions and play them well at this point. Tyler, on the other hand, was just manhandling.
Yeah,
people.
he's getting or having a penchant for playing bully ball a lot.
Yeah, he's a big old bully over there.
Yes.
But his foot placement, his footwork, his hand placement, he's striking people in the middle of the chest as the offensive lineman. That's where you got to aim. So it's very encouraging. He got beat a couple of times, but he also had the wherewithal to, when he did get beat, don't drag the guy down. So don't commit the penalty. If you lose the rep, you lose the rep. So let's talk about Brandon Aubrey, first of all. Who had a better week than Brandon Aubrey? Brandon Aubrey had a baby at the beginning of the week, had to run out of the previous preseason game without talking to the media or anything like that because his wife was in labor, so he had to get out of there for all the good reasons. And then he comes into this preseason game and kicks a 66-yarder that would have tied the NFL record had this been in a regular season game.
And with room to spare. That's the fascinating thing, right? The fascinating thing about watching how or what's being done during these preseason games and what the Cowboys are showing you, right? They're doing this because they're going to show you 66. They're going to probably show you 67, 68, 69, 70, and maybe beyond that. But, to hear Aubrey say that he's comfortable from 70, well, now you've seen the tape that he looked pretty damn comfortable from 66, so why not? What a weapon, right?
What a difference a year makes, too. We were going into last year with all the question marks in the world about their kicking game, and now I think they have one of the best, probably top 10 kicker in the league.
You've taken a college soccer player. Well, they didn't. He did this himself. But a guy that was playing college soccer and turned him into an elite level badass from distance.
Yeah, and now they're going to have to fork up some money to re-sign him. So we all know how well that goes.
It's a little difficult these days, right?
Yeah, we got to free up some cash to pay the kicker now, especially when Harrison Butker just broke the record. I think it was 4 years and $27.6 million for Harrison Butker in Kansas City. So Brandon Aubrey's going to get paid here, whether it's by the Cowboys or by somebody. He has made himself into a legit kicking star. Skill positions, Deuce Vaughn looked fantastic. He gets a lot of flack because of his size, but we've seen small guys like him perform well previously in the NFL. Darren Sproles has done it. We've seen it before, and he played really, really well. I think he averaged 6.8 yards a carry.
Yeah, I mean, again, guys are going to make a big leap, right, from year one to year two. It's just, man, big guys, big running backs have a hard time with lots and lots of carries during the course of a year. So, I think McCarthy, they're going to figure out a way, I would assume, and we were talking about this last year, that they would find a way to, get him in space or let him have a carry or two every now and then. So, maybe he has more of a role this year because of what their running back situation as it currently stands. But he's certainly the youngest guy in the room.
Do you think they'll keep 4 on the roster, 4 running backs? Zeke and Rico Dowdle will be 1 and 2.
And
do you have Royce on there and Deuce, or is it just 3?
I go back to not knowing much about Royce other than the backstory was, he's with the Texans and several other teams.
3rd round pick for the Broncos. He played pretty well.
Right. That was like the mini, I don't want to say buzz, because it wasn't like everybody was going, oh my gosh, so you see this guy and how good he is. But I think there were enough people talking about Royce Freeman, and he was making his presence felt in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And so, will he be more of a factor? I have no idea at this point, but it sure seems like they would keep 4 guys at this point.
Yeah, Malik Davis seems like he's kind of fallen out of the rotation there. So I think if they keep 4, it's going to be those 4. Malik Davis, maybe a practice squad.
Yeah, I would think that would be. I think that's sound reasoning.
As far as receiver goes, who are the 6 that they keep? I mean, obviously CD. Let's just count off a few. CD, obviously. Kavontae Turpin, obviously. Brandon Cooks, obviously. Jalen Tolbert, obviously. Who's next? Who are the next 2 guys that they keep? Because I think that they've played pretty well in the preseason. Jalen Cropper did not help himself with the fumble on Saturday, but who are the other 2 guys?
Well, I mean, Flournoy, because
I keep wanting to say Flournoy.
I do too, and then I want to say Flournoy, but I think it's Flournoy.
Okay. What about Flournoy?
So I know, right? I'm working on my French. Sorry. That speed is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a 4.4 guy, and the separation he was able to create around the goal line for that touchdown that he had the other night was impressive. Yes, I know he's going up against a guy of, similar draft grade, but I think because he got drafted too, I don't think they're going to cut him.
Jalen Brooks is going to make this roster.
100%. Yep.
So
no question.
It might be Jalen Brooks and Flournoy. I just did it again. Flournoy that make the roster as the kind of
Flournoy
5-6. I hate you. 5 and 6 receivers on this roster.
It's training camp. We're all trying to learn these things as we go here.
As far as
Flournoy.
As far as the defense goes, Andrew Booth, the guy that they just traded for, the corner they traded for, led the team in tackles with 8. He looked pretty good. Keemon Hill that you were talking about a little earlier.
Keemon. So a little backstory here. During COVID, his agent at the time, Brian Ehrlich, is a San Antonio guy. Keemon was working out at Bebe's place every day and was one of those guys that was kind enough to let us go do a story on him during the draft process. And North Texas guy, but I believe he's from Mississippi. So, Keemon's always going to have a soft spot in my heart. I don't think he was in the league last year, but he played a couple years with the Chargers. A guy that's really wide, not super tall. His hair's a little longer than I remember it, but he's one of those guys that just seems like he's been a fringe guy, not quite good enough to maybe be, a guy that makes a team for a whole year, but he's right there. And he certainly didn't hurt himself with that pick six the other night.
He read Aiden O'Connell like a book. You could see Aiden late on his read coming over. He threw it, and by the time he threw it, Keemon was already breaking on the ball. So I thought Maris Leofau looked pretty good. Marshawn Nealon looked really good. What the defense is telling me is that they're ready. They're ready to go. They want kickoff to happen tomorrow because that defense already looks like it's clicking under Mike Zimmer. I
agree. And the one thing that stood out over the 2 games is the ability to create turnovers, right?
Yeah, and turn those turnovers into points. So
they needed them last night, whenever the night was. Saturday, yes.
Saturday, Sunday morning, whatever.
Yeah.
See?
I was here late last night because of the Broncos. I'm sorry, because of the Saints and the 49ers game, which was hard to watch.
Yeah, they didn't. Neither of those teams looked good. The under
I would have taken Brock Purdy out of there, man. He was running for his life last night.
I didn't watch a second of that game because I was too busy watching the future of the NFL against the Packers.
Okay, that's fair.
Actually, he only had 2 drives, but they were glorious. I love him. Anyway, let's get to our trivia answer here before we get to the Spurs. I'm going to sprinkle this in all season, but it's really going to put me under the bus if Bo Nix actually does start and he sucks. Then I'm going to really have to eat some crow. But anyway, let's get to the trivia answer. So what year did the Spurs see the biggest single season turnaround? Chuck, give me your reasoning and thought process, and then give me your answer.
Off the top of my head, I'll just stay with this. Not that this has served me well by any stretch of the imagination. Was it the 97-98 year, that the year they got Tim? And did they get Tim in 97-98, or was it? Yes, that was the year, right? Or was it 96-97?
It was the year right before the strike season. That would be the year that you're talking about.
Well, yeah, 99 was the strike year, but I'll say it was the first year that Tim got to the Spurs. But who threw out Dave? That was a good one. You made me had to reconsider.
I've just given you guys all the options. Bob, you got a guess?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same.
You can go with Chuck as well. Yeah. So I will tell you that the 2 seasons that are at the top of this list are separated by 1 win.
Really?
So the season that David Robinson came to the Spurs, 88-89, they went from 20 wins to 55 wins. So that was a 35-win jump. And I think it's 97-98, I believe you're correct. They went from 20 wins to 56 wins. So
go with your gut.
Chuck is correct, but it's crazy to me that they went from 20 to 55, 20 to 56 with the addition of 1 player. But that 97-98 season, it wasn't just the addition of 1 player. It was also David getting back healthy. It was Sean Elliott getting back healthy. It was Avery being healthy. It was all those guys that. The reason that they were a 20-win team wasn't because they didn't have the dudes. It was because they had the worst luck ever.
Right. And because of that and the injuries was the reason why they were even in the mix to get Tim and then have the ping pong balls go their way. So it was every now and then you got to get lucky.
Who was the coach that Pop replaced?
Bob Hill.
Yeah, that was a big improvement as well.
I mean,
I don't know, man. I like Bob
Hill.
Bob Hill won a lot of damn ball games.
Yeah,
in the NBA.
They had been in the playoffs like every single year under him. So, all right, let's get to the Spurs here. So the ESPN is the gift that keeps on giving sometimes when it comes to content, things for us to talk about, because they need things to talk about on their shows. So they released a poll, I guess, from a lot of their experts and asked them to make predictions about this upcoming season. The experts basically rated the Spurs as the second most likely team to make that jump and make a major leap next season, right behind the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, obviously, they now have they're getting Ja Morant back. They just drafted Zach Edey. That is what it is. They have a lot of guys that didn't play last year that are now going to come back. Jaren Jackson Jr., who we know very well here in San Antonio. His father is still a coach here, I believe. He is back as well. They still have Desmond Bane. They still have a lot of guys. I thought it was interesting that they're picking the Spurs to be number 2, because as much as the team has improved this offseason, which we believe with the Chris Paul, with the Harrison Ingram, with the Harrison Barnes signings, like all of these things with Stephon Castle, all these things, we think their ceiling is 35, 40 wins. I mean, Don is thinking 45 would be maybe the ceiling there, but I don't know if they're a playoff team yet.
Yeah, I don't know either. But, I think the hope would be, at least for me, hopefully you have a 500 team here next year. Somebody that can compete for one of those bottom end playoff spots. But, the way you put it too with Memphis, that's pretty sound reasoning as to why you think that. I mean, because if you can add a player like a Ja Morant and a talent like that, I mean, that's got to count for a lot.
Yeah, and then
that guy, I mean, that's one of the few guys in this league I would pay money to go watch play every single night.
And then
when he's available.
Yeah, when he's not getting in trouble. Hopefully that's all behind him.
Yes.
What does a major leap look like? Is it 35 wins? Is it 40 wins? Or do they have to get to the David Robinson, Wemby type win total? Or David Robinson, Timmy type win totals when they get to 55, 56 and go from 20 to 56.
Well, I mean, I think that would be the hope, right? If you're going to add what by most people's accounts is a generational type of talent, then you would hope that you'd be able to find some pieces to go along with, and then that would result in more wins. But I've said this a million times, man, this is a league waiting to be had. There's only a handful of teams that I feel like play the game the right way, that have the right players. The rest of these teams are just fodder for those teams. And if you can get any semblance of moving this thing going in the right direction, you could steamroll, I think, at some point.
You also have the West is so stacked, though. Like, how do you make that leap when most of your games are coming against the better conference? That's a question that needs to be answered, and we won't be answered until.
But I mean, again, it's like how good is Phoenix? It's like they've got players, but how good are they as a team?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're pretty good.
Well, they're going to be because they've got good players. What I'm saying is that what happens if that team learned how to play the right way and played unselfish and do the right thing?
Commenters,
yeah,
Robert Smith's in here almost every week. He says that he still believes the Spurs are about a 30-35 win team.
First of all, Robert, thank you for watching and listening. Second of all, 30 would be a disappointment.
Yep. I think so.
I think their over under right now is 35.5 at sportsbooks.
That's where I'm going.
36.5, something like that.
Vegas knew last year, right?
Vegas made us all look really dumb last year.
So when in doubt, err on the side of Vegas.
So, but I mean, if they're putting it at 35, 36, saying plus or minus 4 or 5 wins wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So whether it's 31 or 41, I think that they're closer to a 41 win team than they are a 31 win team.
I'm with you on that.
But when you look at the West and you have to compete with OKC, Denver, Minnesota, the Clippers, you see, we don't know how good the Clippers are going to be without PG3 this year, or PG13, excuse me. Dallas just went to the world, or my God, went to the World Series, went to the finals this past year.
Well, they did.
Yeah, they did. You're right. Yes. You're right. Texas. Phoenix. How good is Phoenix going to be? We don't know. Lakers. How good are the Lakers going to be? New Orleans. Are they going to take another leap? Zion's saying he's going to be down to 272 and is trying to stay on the court the entire year. So we'll see how that goes. Sacramento going to be another good team. They had a down year last year, but you never know how good Sacramento is going to be. Is Golden State going to take a leap? Is Houston going to take a leap? You have all of these teams that potentially could be on, upsetting our vision for the Spurs is the best way I can think to put it.
Yes, because I think it's fair to assume that Houston's going to be better. The Sacramento Kings look like one of those teams where you feel like at some point they're going to do the right things, and they've got players, right? So yeah, but that's why we line them up and play, right? I mean,
we're like I said on Thursday, we're going to find out how good Houston and San Antonio are right when the season tips off. They play each other 3 times in the first 8 games, so we'll get a very good picture of those two teams.
And what you see, obviously, at the beginning of the season, maybe not what you see towards the end in regards to those two teams, but yeah, weird quirk that they would see them that much.
Let me ask you guys
early.
What do you think the value or how many wins is this like senior leadership they brought in to be on the floor? You know what I mean? Some actual team
5 to 10, right? I mean,
I would say at least 10. Yeah. Everywhere Chris Paul has gone, he's won. He's improved every single team he's been on, whether that's by 5 wins, whether that's by 17 wins. I think when he went to OKC, they improved by like 17 wins. He improves teams because of the leadership, because of the skill set that he brings. When you have this young of a team, hopefully, and I think Papa said this, they're receptive to that kind of leadership. They're receptive to those kinds of things.
They damn well better be. I mean, that's right. I mean, that's the hope. But I mean, wow. I mean, hopefully they'll be receptive to it. They damn well better be.
Yeah. The other thing that
what you're doing right now sure as hell ain't working.
The other thing that the ESPN, on that ESPN article, they made a prediction. Who is the most likely to be to make an all-star team for the first time? And obviously Victor Wembanyama was far and away the top candidate.
Right.
There. 90% of people who voted Victor to be the most likely candidate to make an all-star team for the first time. I think which leads to the question, what is his ceiling next year?
Yeah, I mean, you would expect him to be better and more comfortable with what's going on. Maybe a more defined role to start the year as opposed to last year at this time. And, if we're just talking all-stars, though, I mean, it's an exhibition. Why wouldn't you want to see somebody that, there's, I think, genuine curiosity about, even if you get right down to it and say, well, he may not have earned his way into over another guy or whatever. It's a freaking exhibition, right? At the end of the day, if I'm watching an exhibition, I'd rather see somebody that, I'm familiar with and that I'm curious about, as opposed to, maybe somebody that will have earned his way into there.
I have pretty high expectations for Victor next year for a couple of reasons. One, I think the addition of Chris Paul is going to greatly help. Even though we don't know what number Chris Paul is going to be wearing, Keldon.
That's the question.
Keldon this past weekend said that he will be keeping number 3. So we don't know what the transaction is going to look like there for CP3 or CP13. I don't know. Anyway, I think that the addition of Chris Paul is really going to help
or
Victor.
C3PO or C. Just have like a little Star Wars thing on it.
I think that you're going to see Victor's points per game go way up. I think you're going to see his efficiency rating go way up. I would be disappointed if he doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year, which he should win next year probably. I would be disappointed if he doesn't make an All-Pro team, which I think he could have made an argument that that he should have made a third-team All-Pro this year, but the team was so bad that he didn't get the nod on a lot of these awards. If the Spurs are a 40-win team, let's just call it 40, and they're somewhere in the hunt for a playoff spot, he should be an All-Star. He should be an All-Pro or a All-NBA team. He should be on the Defensive Player of the Year watch. He should be on an all-defensive team. He should be in the conversation for all of those things. And if they're that good, if they're in a 40-win team, he might even get a couple of votes for MVP.
And then I think then again, it would be easier to digest some of this postseason stuff in terms of awards if the team is doing better, because then that would mean that he's doing other things too to make the team and bring the team along as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs are going to go as far as Wemby takes them next year. And if he makes the leap that he showed, if his skill set grows like he showed in the Olympics, then I think that the sky's the limit. So also shout out to Yabusele, his teammate from France, who just signed with the 76ers. I think during all the Olympic coverage, we were like, dude, that guy belongs on an NBA roster. And now here we go. Right. Garcon Yabusele is going to be making an NBA roster. So good for him. That's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Bob, is that all we got for comments today?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. All right.
My name is Chuck. It rhymes with.
Don't get another song stuck in my head today, please.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go.
He said it's a wrap.
I'm gonna go watch more Bo Nix highlights at my cubicle.
That was an excellent throw on that touchdown that he threw. It was running away from pressure and diming it like that. And it was a laser.
I believe, guys. That's all we got for today on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember to join, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back on Thursday and probably talking more Spurs and probably talking more Cowboys. So we'll see you then.
Go Browns.